Hey gang, how's it going? How are you? Todd Nauck. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So, if you joined me last week, we did the pencil art for this Gwenpool piece. So today, let's do the ink. Sorry I wasn't able to broadcast yesterday. Usually I like to have a video up on Saturdays. Oh, there was construction in the area, so it would have been too loud and noisy and just a big pain. So I put it off here until today. So let's see. I can't see where are the comments? How do we, is there a way to make those live chat, all messages are visible there. So I should do a better job being able to keep track of everyone's posts and comments. I'll do my best to answer questions while I draw, but I can't always promise I can do that. And if you're watching this post live, thanks for joining me here to watch the regular art video, which this will become after we're done with a live broadcast. So, yeah, like I said, inks here on Gwenpool. So let's flip the camera around and we'll get started. And if I can't, what I'd hope to do is maybe do a Q&A at the end of the broadcast, so stick with me, gang. So let's flip the camera around and start to work on these inks. Let's see. There we go. Pardon me as I get the camera readjusted here. Whoa, technical difficulties. Get clamped in, there we go. Get her focused, get a little adjustment here. Okay, welcome everyone. Just getting things reset here. Apologize for the delay. There we go. There we go. So, what I want to do here with the inks for this Gwenpool is similar to what I did on the Wonder Woman video I did. Hopefully you saw my Wonder Woman video. If not, make sure you watch that here after this broadcast. 3-part Wonder Woman video. So what I want to do is ink Gwenpool with colored microns. Going to use a lot of pink, so I have a 01 and a 05. 05 for the finer or thicker lines, 01 for the thinner lines, for all the pink parts of her. For the brown and skin tone areas, I'm going to use a 05 and a triple or a 005 brown. Going to be using some browns. A little bit of blue for her eyes and her, what's this thing called? Shark backpack, maybe the blade of her katana. And then a little bit of black. I'm using a 03 and a 005 blue. And then I have a little 01 black, which I'll use for her eyelashes and maybe a few little black areas, maybe for her cell phone as well. So that's the intention here. So we'll be using different colors here as I go. Now, because I sketched her out in the light blue pencil and I rendered her in which I used this here. If you remember last week, the Pilot Color Eno 0.7 light blue lead mechanical pencil. And then once I broke that down, I used my Pentel Twist Erase 0.5 HB lead mechanical pencil for all the graphite lines, for all the details. Now, the lines here as they would be a bit too messy to ink over and then erase. I mean, I could do it, but what I want to do is a pre-erase. So I'm using a kneaded art gum eraser. You know, these are the kind that are all stretchy and squishy and like a chunk of clay. What I want to do is come in here and do like a little pre-erase, just a light rubbing across Gwenpool here, just to kind of pull up some of these darker lines here. So it means I don't have to erase as much or as hard after the inks. So I'm because I'm going to get like a ghost image here, which still gives me all the information I need to ink Gwen, but I don't have to, hopefully it'll be less lines coming up, ink lines coming up when I go to do the official erase. So this is just kind of a pre-erase. Just going to ghost her out a little bit. As you can still see her. She's still showing up. The lines are still showing up. But I'm getting a lot of those blue lines off now, off the page, and I'm getting some of that graphite to lighten up as well. So this will help in the overall finished inked process. Just a pre-erasing here. And you can get any of these art gum, kneaded art gum erasers from your local art supply store, or you can purchase them online. All right. So as you can see there, she's still very visible, but she is a bit more ghosty than she was before. So without further ado, let's get to inking. Starting with the pink, because I'm going to start at the top and kind of work my way down, essentially, starting with stuff that's in the foreground first. And her mask that sits on top of her head is where I'm going to start. In fact, let's push the camera in a little closer so you can see more of the details of the inks. So her mask is bunched up on her head here, so we're going to have a lot of wrinkles from how it bunches. And that can come with studying real life, like study how like knitted hats fit on people's heads, maybe find a picture of a Spider-Man cosplayer who's doing a Peter Parker sort of look with the mask pushed up on his head, and study the wrinkles. Study how the mask or like a skull cap wrinkles when sitting on a person's head. And then kind of try to emulate that with lines and shapes in your line work. It can really help to come up with some fun shapes. And really helps as you work on your own style when you work off of real life as much as possible. As you can see here, I have thicker lines on more of the outer parts of Gwen, and then the thinner lines on the inside there. So I'm keeping in mind thicks and thins, gives the eye more to play with. Also, things that are kind of on towards the bottom, like of the tail of her mask here. If the light's coming mostly from above, slightly thinner lines on top with a little bit of a thicker line underneath. Kind of can give the illusion of a shadow. Let's see, I'm going to need some black here for the lenses of her mask. So I'm switched over to a black. So this is the 08 black here. So inking with the multicolors here for the line art kind of gives Gwen this animated sort of look. So I just think it's kind of fun and a fun technique to do. Much as you saw me do with the Wonder Woman video, if you've had a chance to see that multi-parter. So let's see. Moving from her mask down here to her hair is blonde hair. So I'm going to switch to the brown here, this brown micron, starting with the 05 because I want thicker lines here for the initial shapes. I only use the really thin stuff when I need really, really thin, tiny details, because I can still get thin lines with a 05 or a 08, depending on how much pressure I put on the nib. Now I'm just going to sculpt out the shape of her bangs that I had laid out with the pencil stage. Remembering to vary my thicks and thins. And where the hair overlaps the forehead, would kind of create a slight illusion of shadow. Now, since Gwenpool has pink tips to her blonde hair, I'm not going to ink the very ends of her hair with brown. I'm going to switch it back over to the pink. But I want to get kind of the initial blonde started as I pull towards the ends. But I'm going to go back in and use pink in those spots right there. Let's go ahead and ink her face, because I'm using brown for the skin tones as well. Gwenpool is a youthful character, so I'm not going to put a bunch of lines on her face, because that would kind of age her a bit, age her more than I'd want her to be. So let's go ahead and finish the hair now while I'm thinking about it. So I'm switching back to the pink 0.5 micron and continuing those lines on down. Now I do plan to take this to color, and this will be a Copic color illustration. So it'll really come together, this blonde to pink hair effect, when we get to Copic colors in the next live art stream. Don't have time to do the colors in this stream, so this is just solely the inking stream. There we go. There's Gwen with, might be kind of hard to see with the lighting, but brown down to pink, which is really fun. Let's go ahead and ink the collar of her uniform. So because her costume is pink and white, I'm using pink for the pink parts and the white parts, because the white parts have a little bit of a light, very light shade of pink tone to them, and that'll be more reflected when we get to the Copic color stage. Ink the seams here. A little thicker on the outer edges, the perimeter, the contours, maybe one might want to call them. Like here on the shoulder. Little wrinkles there where the shoulder meets the upper arm. Let's go ahead and ink her glove. We'll just finish out the whole arm over here. What I like to do is start off thin, and then if I need my lines to be thicker, I can always build that line up. I can always beef it up, as we used to say back at Extreme Studios. If we needed a thicker line, it's like, can you beef up that line? You can always make the lines thicker. It's almost impossible to make them thinner unless you want to use whiteout or white paint, but then that's going to get in the way of when you do the colors. If you're going to use markers or paints of any sort, at least watercolor paints. I don't know if it might affect you so much if you're using acrylics. I don't use acrylics, at least not yet. So it's just easier, rule of thumb. Start thin, and if you feel that things are getting a little lost, if everything's looking to be too much of the same line weight, you can thicken up certain areas. And always start with the kind of the contour of each shape as kind of your first line of attack. And then from there you can get a sense of how things are popping on the page. Especially here with the foreshortening, because her forearm is kind of coming towards us a little bit. Now I need some brown. Now I need to switch over to brown because the straps on her arms are brown. So I switch to the brown, 05. Whatever color is most dominant in the foreground or overlaps over on top of something else, that's the color I want to use for, that's the color pen I want to use to ink that object. So these straps overlap the pink gauntlet, so they get the dominant line. Do I buy my supplies in bulk? Great question. Yes, I do. Because I know I'm going to go through a lot of microns, at least when it comes to black microns, I buy them by the box load because in the long run, it's cheaper for me because I know I'm going to use them. With the colored microns, I just kind of started doing this kind of style of inking here more recently in the past year. So I haven't been buying my colors in bulk yet, but I might end up doing that if I continue to do more illustrations in this manner. Then it might be more cost effective in the long run for me to buy in bulk. But currently I just buy a couple of colors or replace colors one by one when needed. Because like I say, I don't do it all that frequently, so I'm not drawing out my colored microns as quickly as I do my black microns, which I use for my commission work as well as my professional comic book page art work. And inking with microns is just a personal choice because it's just what I did. Is the pens I had access to back in the 90s, and just kind of got really comfortable with it. Felt like I got proficient enough with microns to where I could ink professionally with them. So let's ink her cell phone here. I think I'm going to use black for the cell phone ink lines. Where did that 08 go? That's a 05. I'm missing one of my blacks. Did I drop it? Oh, there it is. There it is. So I'm going to use my straight edge here. Drafting tools are our friends. Using the 08 micron. Thicker outline on the outer perimeter, thinner on the inside to create that sense of depth. Putting those little buttons, the little volume up or down buttons, whatnot. It's going to switch to the 01 here. Just to ensure I get that nice thin line here across the top, bottom part of that button. Get those little buttons there done. So bring her up close there so you can see how the buttons turned out there on her cell phone. All right, let's see. Let's go back to the brown and ink her face. Gonna switch to a thinner brown micron here for the nose. Even though you saw me in the pencil stage, I drew in the whole nose here for the inks. Actually, I roughed in the whole nose, then just the graphite line, just the nostrils here to give her a cute little tiny nose. Doing the same with the inks. That's all we need to see. That gets the job done. Let's see. For now, I'm going to give her brown eyebrows because she has blonde hair. Black would be a little too dark, I think. I can always go darker if I feel the brown is not dark enough for her eyebrows, but I think the brown will work just fine for now. I can always add black later if I feel the eyebrows should be darker. Switch back to the 0.5 here so I can get a nice dark line. I'm going to grab that black again. Got the 0.1. Going to use this for the eyelashes. A nice thick line across the top. But we can push the camera in a little closer. A little bit of a winky eye there. Will the tongue be inked with pink? Yes, I will ink the tongue in pink, yes, but then color it with pink with Copic marker. I'll probably ink the lips with pink as well. Though the Copic marker color shade for pink and for the tongue and the lips will probably be two different shades of pink. All right. Switching back to the brown, the 0.5 brown. Want to ink the top of the eyelid because that is her skin. So I want to use the brown for that. Oops, so sorry. I just added those lines right there and that line for the top. And that little tear duct thing, I use a little brown right there. Let's switch back to those pinks we were talking about here for the tongue. Oops. Actually, I'm going to go to a thinner pink, the 0.1. A nice thick line for the bottom of the lip there to really show that shadow. Okay, so that's good for the lip and the tongue. Let's switch over to blue now for her blue eyes. Gonna go with, she has blue eyes, right? Yes, blue eyes. Have my Gwenpool reference handy. So I'm going to use a 0.05 blue micron to ink the blue of her eyes. The irises, I should say. The iris is the color part of the eye. Have a little white highlight that cuts in there. And then I'm going to go back to the black for the iris. Iris is the black part of the eye. So there we go. There are her eyes. Let's grab the 0.3 blue pen, and we're going to use blue to ink the lines for her backpack, her shark backpack. I know the different colors here I'm using different sizes. Some are 0.8, some are 0.5, some are 0.3. All just depends on what the art supply store has available. Sometimes the 0.3 is the thickest lined uh, micron they're offering at the time. Maybe the others have sold out. So I'm just buying whatever I can get my hands on. There's no real rhyme or reason other than that. Otherwise, I'd probably prefer all 0.8s, 0.1s, and double 0.5s because those are the ones I choose for my black microns that I buy because those are the ones I like to use the most. But for the color ones, sometimes it's whatever they have in stock. So that's why the numbers are changing. Like I have a 0.5 brown, but a 0.3 blue. It's just, that's the reason why. There's no other specific art reason. So as you can see, towards the bottom of things, I put a little bit of a darker line. It's not always like that, but it's kind of a starting rule of thumb. Or if something's overlapping on top of something, might want to put a little thicker line there. Yeah, someone mentioned they feel like they have kind of a heavy hand when it comes to inking. Me too. I used to have a very heavy hand back in the day, and with continued practice, and check out my inking exercise video here on my YouTube channel for some little exercises you can do with your inks to kind of develop control of the line, of your line weights and line skills to develop a softer touch. A softer touch, I believe, can be developed with continued practice, and it's a very conscious effort that one has to make to get there in many ways. So inked her little shark backpack there, sticking off of her back. But yeah, heavy hands, that's not uncommon, and that can be rectified with copious amounts of practice. So don't stop practicing. Let's switch back to the pink, and we're going to ink more of her uniform. Am I planning to color this later? Yes, the colors will be a separate live stream. So today is just the inked line art. Just inks today. In fact, doing the inks here will be quite the chore in and of itself. So definitely would not be enough time to do inks and colors. So we're gonna break the art up into the second part and a third part. So hopefully you saw part one, the pencil stage, where I sketched it all out in blue line and then tightened it up with graphite. See what I did right there? A lot of people ask how you do the kind of cross hatching or hash marks. Keep in mind the direction of the thing that you're illustrating here. If the light's coming from above, we're creating this fade, but I want to go in the direction of the roundedness of her chest. You just don't throw lines in every which direction, which I see a lot of time in young artists' work, and that's okay. They're learning. I did it myself back when I was much younger, but it takes time to learn the directionality of these detail lines and the purpose that they serve. You want them to have a purpose. Let me pull the camera back just a smidge here. What is my favorite process? Favorite part of the process, the pencils, the inks, or the colors? For me, it's whatever is the final stage is always my favorite. So if I'm just doing pencils, then it's doing the sketch work I like, but I love doing the pencils. If I'm doing full pen and ink line work, the pencils are just setting me up so I can get to that sweet good times of the ink work. If I'm taking it to full colors, then the inks is just getting me looking forward to doing the finished color stage. So I guess technically I enjoy every part of the process, but I think it's always that last part of whatever the end goal is that is always my favorite, because then I'm seeing it to the final fruition of the stage that I'm working towards, if that makes sense. But really I love it all because it's all part of creating and putting the puzzle together bit by bit, piece by piece. Each stage is important to the next stage. But great question. Some wrinkles there where the sleeve meets. What helps me approach my art and collect ideas? Let's see, I kind of see those as two separate questions. So what helps me approach my art? Just the sheer joy and passion and love for creating art and drawing characters. It's something I've always loved to do as a little kid. Earliest memories were of drawing and drawing characters. I just always had a desire and passion to do that. And it brings me a lot of joy and just the fun of it. Just an innate, just lifelong passion. Collecting ideas, it's just what do I see around me? Just what do I think looks cool? Whether it be comic art, animation, movies, live action, real life. I'll see things in real life and just catalog things that I see just in my memory. Like, oh, I'll need to remember that. I'll need to remember to look up that one movie or that one cartoon or, check out that latest issue by artist, whichever artist I've just discovered or come across or want to see more of, and then just kind of let myself be inspired by all sorts of things and be and get ideas by just whatever it is I encounter. And then just let that go through the Todd Nauck process, percolate through my brain and come out my hands onto the paper and see what develops and see how I change things. I make things come out through the Play-Doh fun factory of my art. Hope that kind of answers your question there. And I will be doing a more detailed Q&A after the artwork is done here, where I can focus more on your questions and answer as many of those as I can. So stick with me for the whole art broadcast if you can, and have your questions ready for when I flip the camera back around and I can do the more focused Q&A. Now, I love drawing hands. I've always loved drawing hands. They were a challenge to learn, but I just love how expressive they are. And I love making characters hold things. I always loved that about when I was a kid with my action figures, and even as an adult with my action figures, is can the hands hold things? Are they in a good position? So I've always enjoyed hands. That was one of the key factors when I was a kid when I'd buy action figures. It's like, how well can the action figure hold their accessory or weapon or whatever it is, I wanted to put in their hands. So I love drawing fingers and how they bend and how they can shape and making them each one different. That is what's really can be so fun and expressive about the character is expressing through the hands. A lot of emotion can come through the hands as much as through the face. Through the body language and the hands as much as the face for me. Now I'm going to switch back to the brown for the straps on this side of her arm, just as we had done on the other side of the arm. Need the brown here for these straps. You love how my style is so cartoony and expressive. Thank you. Cartoons were some of my first, earliest influences before I got into reading comic books. I loved cartoons. Still enjoy cartoons, absolutely. But I wasn't a comic book reader when I was a little kid. So my biggest influences were cartoons and the newspaper comic strips. Those were my earliest influences as a small child / young, very young artist. Let's see, where's that pink again? I missed one spot on her gauntlet here. Boop. What type of paper am I using currently? Great question. A lot of people ask that. It's a fantastic question. I am using currently here with, whether I'm doing commissions or I'm doing my professional comic book work, I use Strathmore Smooth Bristol board. Sometimes for commissions, I'll use Canson recycled Bristol board, the smooth kind as well, but the sizes are different. For commissions, I use 9x12, like this piece here is a 9x12. For my professional comic book work, I use 11x17. 11x17 is the size I use. That's pretty much the traditional comic book art paper size is 11x17, and it's really I think probably the perfect size paper for drawing comics, because it's been tried and true for decades. In fact, I saw somewhere, I forgot where I saw it, but Jack the King Kirby, legendary comic book artist of the 1960s, well, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, I guess even into the 80s. Sometimes he would draw on even larger paper, like, I don't know, like 19x24 or something like that. I saw someone post a piece of original Jack Kirby art, and it was on this enormous page of paper, which was pretty impressive. It was pretty huge. It's like, how big was his drafting table? That's really cool. Closest I've gotten to working on a piece of that size was when I did the Hunt for Wolverine variant covers / poster. And that was 22x34. We got this seam, this kind of zipper. There we go. Would I draw Doom Patrol or Swamp Thing sometime? Yeah, absolutely I would. I would definitely consider drawing those characters, maybe for a future live stream. Or even, if DC asked me to work on those books, I'd definitely consider that. They're cool, definitely cool characters. And I think those would be really fun stories to draw. But yeah, maybe we'll see me drawing a Doom Patrol or Swamp Thing sometime in a future art video or live stream. Let's go ahead and draw the G here on her belt buckle, her Gwenpool logo belt. There we go. Now I think I need to switch over to, we'll stay on this upper part of her uniform here. So we're going to switch over to some black for the, I want black? Maybe I want to use blue. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use blue instead for these silvery buckles here on her uniform, because we'll use this blue for the silver of her katana blade as well. So for now, I'm just going to come in here with the 03 blue micron. Start inking some buckles. Let me see, barely see one here on this far side that will go underneath that belt. In fact, we'll just go ahead and finish off the whole top part here by inking her katanas. So I'm going to use some blue here on the blade of her katana. What's my current project? I can't really say what my current project is yet because it hasn't really been released. That info hasn't been released in a press announcement yet, but hopefully that will be soon, and I can talk a little bit more about that. But my most recent comic that I've drawn that you can get in the shops, it came out just a week and a half ago, Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel History Issue 2. I drew Issue 2, the Spider-Man issue. It's written by Nick Shear, or I'm sorry, Paul Scheer, Paul Scheer and Nick Giovanetti, a couple of awesome, hilarious guys who, and also, they write fun superhero comics as well. I worked with them on the Spider-Man Deadpool series, and we've reteamed up here for Cosmic Ghost Rider, and so good to be working with my friends again. So, yeah, be sure to look out for that. It's the Cosmic Ghost Rider miniseries, not the Cosmic Ghost Rider regular series. Switch to brown here for the hilt of her katana, using the the 0.5 micron. And this is called a French curve. I'm using a French curve because you can get a nice, smooth, slightly curved line. Another one of the drafting tools I highly recommend. If you're going to be a pro comic book artist, you're going to need drafting tools. Get triangles, get circle and ellipse templates. Ellipse are those ovals. Get those, and get yourself a T-square and some French curves, because you will definitely use them in the course of your comic creating. So it helps us get nice, smooth, slightly curved lines. See here, doing that little bit of detail work there. I'm considering the roundedness of the bottom of the hilt of her sword, keeping that in mind, going in the direction of how that would curve around. That's my focus there. That is critical. And the weaving there on the handle. And let's see. We'll see the top of the, let's see, in the pencil video, I was calling this a scabbard, or sheath, or sword sheath. I'm not sure what the difference is between a scabbard and a sheath. I could be you'd be using the word scabbard in the wrong way. It's just fun to say. Sorry I'm not able to address everyone's question while I'm focused here on the art. I try to catch some when I can. Do stick around for the Q&A, the live Q&A towards the end of this broadcast. Let's see. You think it's because a scabbard is hard and a sheath is soft? Sounds good to me. That's some good info to start building some knowledge on. I'll definitely need to look that up here. I'll need to remember to look that up after the broadcast. Let's see. I want to bring back the French curve here because I don't think I can confidently freehand that line as smooth as I want it. So bring in the drafting tool. Boom. Nailed it. Boom. Nice, clean lines there. A little thicker here towards the bottom because it's further away from the light. And again, that same concept, detail lines, keep in mind the direction or the shape of what it is you're conveying. A couple little studs there on the sheath or scabbard, depending on what the correct terminology is, and it will handle the other side of, or the other sword, the sword on the other side. That's maybe the way the words should be going. All right, so let's hit the belt, these pouches, and that other side of the sheath. It's really fun drawing accessories. It can be a little time consuming, but it's those details that can be a lot of fun. It's just taking the time to really focus on each shape of the detail, of the the buckle and the strap and the end of the strap and the other side of the strap that goes around to the back. And utilizing these accessories to show the shape and form of the character, of her body. It's going to curve around her body. So I didn't want to just draw it flat. I want to make it too rounded. So I want to keep in mind the shape and volume of Gwenpool, of the girl of, I don't know, is Gwenpool late teens, maybe early 20s? So so I want to keep in mind the shape and physique and have the belts curve in just the right way, so it's believable. And how the pouches, they hang off the belt, but I have them bending a little bit here because of the position of her body twisted over her thighs, so the thigh is pushing the pouch up. So keeping these little things in mind, all these little things are things we keep in mind as comic book artists. How is each object reacting to the other object in the scene? As much as possible, as best as possible. These are things that we're trying to consider. And then how they overlap, keeping that in mind. The wrinkles, how the pouches might bunch. When they are towards the back. So she's really starting to come together, huh, gang? We're really making some good progress here. We've definitely passed the halfway point. Then the rest of her belt here, a little thicker through here, maybe a little lip there at the top of the belt. And for this other, the pouches here on the other side of the belt. The outer parts of the pouch a little thicker, the inner workings thinner. Don't want things to muddy. If I made everything the same line weight, especially a thicker line weight, it would be really muddy. If it was too thin, if everything was too thin of a line weight, I don't know if that would look so good either. It's having that variation that can really give the viewer's eye things to focus on and get, like, the thicker outlines kind of give us the initial shape, but then we can focus in on little tinier details and our eye can move in and out of the illustration with new things to look at and where to put our focus. And one more pouch right over there that goes just in front of the shark backpack, but then we have this part of the sheath. Let's see. Let's freehand some of this. In fact, I think I can freehand all of this. Want that thicker line right through there because it's further away from the light source. See, someone said they have an idea for a mashup, Black Panther and Pink Panther. That's fun. Give it a draw. Draw it up. That'd be cool to see. Okay, let's go back to the pink here for a moment and finish off her uniform, because the pink overlaps her legs. go. While we have the pink out, let's go ahead and finish off the areas that would need to be penciled or inked. Penciled. We're inking here now. This isn't the penciling video. Finish inking the things here in pink. So her shin guards and yeah, just these shin guard thingies. Oops. Sorry, we got a little out of focus there. Well, I think I want to use the French curve here. Find the right angle of the curve, the correct angle, I should say, not the right angle, like a geometric right angle, but the correct curve section that mirrors what I'm working towards. Oh, you think Frank Cho did a Pink Panther, Black Panther piece? Yeah, that sounds pretty familiar now that you mention it. I think I'd forgotten about that, but that does sound really familiar. So it sounds like it might have been done. But feel free to create a Pink Panther, Black Panther piece in your way. Don't look at what Frank Cho did. Do it your way, and then look up Frank Cho's and see if y'all matched or if you came up with something different. I'll just these last few touches. So putting the pink away for the moment and grabbing the brown back. Go ahead and ink the straps here that run around the back of her thighs. Or not thighs, shins. Shins are the lower part of the leg, not thighs. And then we're just letting the inks kind of fade out because the colors will fade out further we get away. So now we're going to use brown here to finish the legs and the pouches. The pouches are brown, the legs are a skin tone, so we're going to use brown for both of these elements. So we'll start with the first thigh pouch because it's most in the foreground. We're on the tail stretch here. Don't forget the live Q&A coming up here right after I finish the line art, so stick around for that. I'll answer as many questions as I can, as time permits. Now, as you can see here, as we're getting the lines inked in here, all those pencil lines and those construction lines from the blue, the non-repro blue pencil are much harder to see thanks to the pre-erase. If y'all tuned in just here after I started inking, I started this video by pre-erasing the pencil lines just to kind of minimize how dark they were, to make them a little more of a ghost image that I could ink from. So this actually, all these pencil lines were a bit darker before I did the pre-erase. But the pre-erase helps me get a good chunk of those lines off the page so that when I go to ink after the inks are done, I don't have to ink as vigorously, and I don't have to worry about pulling up too much of the inked line art. I don't need this French curve at the moment. Put that over there. Much like with the belt that ran across her torso there, her abdomen, conveying the shape and form, same thing here with this thigh belt. It's helping me communicate the shape and form of her thigh, the roundedness. So keep those things in mind when you're drawing your accessories. They're not just lines for any old reason. Oops, forgot to ink that top line of her belt and finish that one little buckle thingy. Keep in mind what you're conveying, shape and form. That is really going to help your figures have more mass and believability, no matter how cartoony your style is. Just a few little details there on the knee. Don't have to over-render the knee. There we go. Now to come over here. Now you want to keep in mind the angle as well. Since the thigh is coming towards us, that belt is going to wrap around. We're going to see far more curve here where the thigh is a little more straight on. So there's a slight curve to the belts, but they're not quite as curved. Not quite as curved. What kind of paper is this? Thanks for tuning in. This is Strathmore smooth Bristol board. It's a 9-inch by 12-inch piece of smooth Strathmore Bristol board. You can get this at pretty much any comic book, or not comic book shop, any art supply store. Those are the two stores I probably frequent the most, comic shops and art supply stores. So you can get it at just about any art supply store. And if you don't have an art supply store near you, maybe a Michael's Craft store here in the US. I know those Michael's stores tend to be nationwide. So stop by Michael's Craft store. Or you can also find these on art supply websites like Jerry's Arnorama, Dick Blick. I guess those are the two main ones I use, so I had to buy online. Do I prefer a page with tooth or without when inking? I prefer without. That's why I use smooth board. I like a nice smooth texture to my paper. I don't really care for the tooth for my style of art and inking. I just don't. It just doesn't work for me. At least for most of the type of stuff I draw. I prefer that smoothness. I like to have my pen just slide right across the board. Not far from finishing up here, gang. We just have one more leg and finishing off this strap. We have a holster over here, and then this Gwenpool line art will be done, and we'll do that Q&A. So get your questions ready. I'll try to answer as many as I can. Fortunately, I can't promise I can answer everyone's, but I'll try to answer as many as I can. All right, so that takes care of the leg. Let's ink this one holster here. Okay, and then let's grab that black one more time. We're going to go with the 01. Yeah, that'll work. We're just going to draw a little bit of the gun that's in the pistol in here. Oh no. Did it lock up? Ah, crud. What's up, YouTube? Oh man. Well, gang, don't know why it locked up. Maybe the phone overheated, but I guess we'll just sign off for now. And hopefully this won't happen here for the... Fortunately, we got most... Yeah, it froze. It froze here on my end. I'm not sure why it's frozen. So gang, I hate that we have to end the video this way. Swing over to my Instagram channel, or my Instagram account, I should say, instagram.com/Todd Nauck, and we'll do a follow-up Q&A over there, and I'll show you the finished art there. So yeah, it's real a shame that this froze up. I'm thinking maybe the phone got a little overheated, unless it's something over there on the YouTube side. Really frustrating this happened, but at least we got most of the inks done. So sorry, but thanks for tuning in, gang, and be sure to subscribe to my channel and come over to Instagram for my for the wrap up Q&A. And hopefully this inking video will save to my channel so people can watch a majority of the inks when